I am not trying to slight anybody. I know after multiple messages that I got about our post fight interview, people being upset of not giving people enough credit, whatever. This is not an indictment. That these are all very impressive. That is why they are nominated. But it's my choice. So
I will also say this. There has been a panel throughout the year to make sure that these are, narrowed down into as accurate as we can possibly make them. And then the decision comes between an entire panel as well as Zach. So that all being said.
So if you don't win, it's okay. Your performance was still great. It's all good.
All right. Well, this is always my favorite podcast of the entire year. Another year back for 2024 in the rearview mirror as we have another award show. Bunch of incredible nominees. Zach, I just think that this was maybe the toughest year. I mean, we've been doing this for a couple years now, but I can't think of a year where things are this tight. I mean, I still don't know if we fully know what we're going to be saying throughout the entirety of this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, 13 fight cards with a lot of action and there was moments on every card. So it was definitely hard to narrow it down and pick them out.
All right, so we're going to kick things off. We have 7 awards to give out. It'll be Debuter of the Year, Submission of the Year, KO of the Year, Performance of the Year, Amateur Fighter, Fight, and Professional Fighter of the Year as well. We'll kick things off with the first-timers, the debuters. The nominees are Nico Braswell, Sam Deitman, Hunter Birdsley, Jacob Baird. All of them showed out in their first showings at Fierce.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard. And I'm going to preface this by saying, I am not trying to slight anybody. I know after multiple messages that I got about our post fight interview, people being upset of not giving people enough credit, whatever. This is not an indictment. That these are all very impressive. That is why they are nominated. But it's my choice. So
I will also say this. There has been a panel throughout the year to make sure that these are, narrowed down into as accurate as we can possibly make them. And then the decision comes between an entire panel as well as Zach. So that all being said.
So if you don't win, it's okay. Your performance was still great. It's all good. So with that being said, for me, my debut performance of the year was Hunter Birdsley for a few reasons. One, I know how tough Jerry Cortez is. I thought that the Sam Deitman fight, he was obviously, we just saw it. He was super impressive. Caleb was just really tough. And I think Nico Braswell got the decision win, if I'm right, while he dominated and looked awesome. Decision kind of just teared that down just a notch for me. Sam Deitman, I think he was a little bit more ready than to fight another debuter the way he showed up and showed out. Congratulations to his team for getting him that ready for their fight. But I'm also looking at opponents there. So it really came down to Hunter Birdsley and Jacob Baird for me. With Jacob's extensive Muay Thai and kickboxing background, I don't feel like he's like a true debuter. I know it was his MMA debut, and it was for us, and we're super excited to have him back in January. Tate Martin, I mean, that was a very impressive finish, but the way Hunter just kind of came out, started fast, finished strong, finished early. I trained with Jerry Cortez. I know how tough Jerry is, or not Cortez, sorry. But I know how tough Jerry is, so I'm going to have to give the nod to Hunter Birdsley.
All super, super credentialed guys. I mean, I'm thinking, I don't even know how you make that final decision. I mean, all of them were sensational.
Right? We're nitpicking.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Submission of the year, it goes over to Jason Ergel just this past week, Nico Suascoon in March, Amin Garcia in February, and then David Maggio as well in September at Bear Lake. All of them super slick in their own right. Zach, which one takes it away?
Again, going for me, it really what it comes down to, you know me, love a good guillotine. Jason Ergel snatching up a really quick, nice guillotine. The reason why that one's getting just knocked down just a tier. Yes, Jason capitalized, but those wrestlers tend to stick their neck there. And Walker kind of gave it to him. No discredit to Jason. But great submission. that one's not going to be it for me. Nico was just so fast with it, and you could just see the gap there of the skill level on that shot that he hit. Good on him, but I think like I just the gap level for submissions. The one where it really came down to me was Ammon Garcia, who got hurt moments before that, got his wits and slapped on that triangle and put Talon Carvalho to sleep. But I am going to go ahead and give it to David Maggio because I know how tough it is to submit Vince Wright. And Maggio, his chain that he went through was so sick. Almost got the armbar. Vince gets out of that. The transition to transition to transition. It was just super smooth. I think you could flip a coin there. Ammon Garcia versus David Maggio. It's who they did it to that put it over the top. Talon, more an athletic striker. Back then, a little bit greener in the jiu-jitsu area. We've obviously seen he's grown a lot in that. We'll talk about that when we talk about the fight of the year of how he got out of that Logan Taylor rear naked choke. He showed that, but when that happened, that was his green area. David Maggio getting the toughest finish over the best jiu-jitsu guy. Got to give it to David Maggio.
I just have to echo everything you said about the chaining specifically. I could not believe the
That
amount
was
of
such a
transitions he
sick
had,
sequence.
and they were so perfectly timed. I was blown away by that, and happy to see him get back in the win column after a submission loss himself in April. All right, we're going to move over to the KO of the year. This one has the most nominations because, Zach, we could not decide as a panel who was going to take away with this one. Nasir Davis in November, Nasir Davis as well in February, Ben Robinson, Justin Horsley, and Anthony Castro. Every single one of those were unbelievable in their own right.
Like, I wish we could just nominate all of them.
That's how good it was. Yeah,
it was really good. I mean, there was the one that stands out to me, for whatever reason, is Ben Robinson's knockout over Sterling Simmons, because the consensus was, I think a lot of people thought Sterling was going to do that to Ben. And Ben walked Sterling down and knocked him out. When I heard a lot of people being like, I can't believe you made this matchup. Like, Sterling's going to take Ben's head off. And that's why we have the fights. And I like, to me, like Nasir Davis, both of his were so sick. So sick. His knockout in November was, I've started throwing that combo at the gym. Like, and Mace, our cut guy, even told me he started playing with it at the gym. Like people are mimicking exactly how he set that up. It was beautiful against another striker. Anthony Castro obviously blowing the roof off of the Temple at our first event there, with that knockout, and Justin's in Idaho Fall was incredible as well. But I think Ben was the biggest underdog in those.
Yeah.
And while the knockouts were all fantastic, again, I'm it's not just what they did, but who they did it against. And the two that Anthony finished Nino for the first time. Nino had never been finished before, and to finish him that way. I'm gonna go with Anthony Castro for being able to knock out Nino Henao for the first time in his career, and just the incredible body of work that Anthony did the whole fight leading up to that.
No, he is extremely special. And I just also want to say about Ben Robinson, we didn't have an upset of the year award or anything like that. But in terms of what people thought was going to happen going into a fight and what actually turned out to be the most emphatic win of the year, without a doubt, was Ben Robinson in July.
Well, you know what's so funny is, like, I hear people all the time, people criticize the UFC when they make certain matchups, right? And whatever. And when you do this long enough, you do realize, like, if two people agree to fight, like, just sit back and watch.
Yeah.
Don't have any preconceived notion. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. We think we know, but we get surprised a lot in MMA. Not just at Fierce, but UFC level, everywhere else. Like surprises happen all the time. Just sit back and watch because all that mattered in that fight was Ben and his camp believed in it, and they came out and shocked a lot of people.
All right, we go over to performance of the year. Anthony Castro comes away with the KO of the year, and he also has a nomination in this category as the performance of the year alongside Mike Jones in April, Nasir Davis again in November, and then Hava Owens. That one has kind of slid under the radar, but people forget the amount of volume he threw in that fight, kept coming forward, and never had any sort of a slip within that entire 15-minute fight.
Yeah, that was the most, I mean, complete, right? Because it went decisions and he had to have the right dance partner. Steven Steyerwalt was there for all of it, who was in the fight of the year against Kesley Collard in 2023. And Steven's toughness is what allowed Nate Owens to have that just 3-round masterpiece in the co-main event in March. Um, hard to say it wasn't Anthony Castro. He already got the knockout of the year, but and then Nasir Davis, his knockout was phenomenal, but the fight was just so even. He won that moment, but I mean, Deshaun Gray was having a lot of success early, and not to take anything away from Nasir, for me, the performance of the year, I think is clear cut, was Mike Jones. I don't even know if he got hit in that fight. He comes in, he's supposed to fight Greg Ellis at UVU, takes a short notice replacement when Greg Ellis gets injured. Trent Miller, 5-0. Trent Miller, 5-0, was surging, needed a win over a vet to possibly get on Dana White Contender Series or the Ultimate Fighter or something, and was coming in there and trying to make a name off of Mike Jones. And Mike fought, I thought he fought dang near perfect. And he knocked off a guy that a lot of people are looking as a knocking on the door of being a UFC prospect. And Mike absolutely stuck to a game plan, was perfect, drops him, gets on him, suffocating on top, gets the tap. Mike Jones was my performance of the year, and that was one of the easier ones for me.
You know, when you mix in the parody of what a fight is supposed to be, especially a main event to that magnitude like we had in April, you think about Trent Miller and Mike Jones and you go, that's going to be a really good fight. That's going to be a really close fight. And on the flip side, Mike Jones runs away with it, and it looks like he didn't even break a sweat doing so. And that's
Trent's
what made that
very
performance
good.
so special.
And Trent's very good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, it was very, very special for Mike Jones. Again, performance of the year. He'll also be nominated for the Professional Fighter of the Year in just a little bit. All right, let's move to the amateurs, though. Amateur Fighter of the Year nominations go to Nasir Davis, Ricky Mamone, David Kim, and Logan Taylor. Every single one of these fighters took home at least one belt or defended as well. That all being said, Zach, super, super close once again.
Almost impossible to pick. Almost. Ricky Mamone with what could have very easily been a knockout of the year candidate with his performance. Only reason why he didn't get it, only fought one time. Nasir Davis fought twice for us, once for Tough Enough, but that third walk that he made for us was his pro debut. So that one has to be excluded from the amateur fighter of the year. That gives him 2. David Kim with a couple of walks, but I think it has to go to the guy that made the most walks, 3 under the Fierce banner, and 1 up at his hometown, up in Front Street, up in Boise. Logan Taylor going 4-0 in the year of 2024, and getting the Fierce FC lightweight title.
That was sensational. The way in which he did it as well versus Talon Carvalho.
Well, and that fight was so good because I thought Talon was winning, drops him twice, arguably, not arguably, I think would have been completely justified if that fight had been stopped. The ref lets it go. To me, it looks like maybe made the right decision letting it go because Logan literally won the rest of that fight the rest of the way. And and again, Talon showed an insane amount of toughness in that fight. Talon was so tired from defending that choke and that adrenaline dump and everything. For him to continue to fight for 2 more rounds after that, People have no idea how hard that is. People have no idea how hard that is. And so I don't know, but I mean Logan's resume beating a surging Austin Munoz, um, just and then beating Talon the way he did. I just um, got it, and the most walks did it for me for Logan Taylor.
Two suplexes as well. I just got to make sure that
Couple
that's in there
suplexes, not
as
bad.
well.
Oh, you get balloons.
I hope that doesn't come through on the recording. If it does, we do this on Zoom. Surprise, surprise. But
If you do
anyway.
two, no balloons for me, just you.
Okay, so that perfectly segues into this next one. The fight of the year. One of the nominations is obviously going to go to Logan Taylor and Talon Carvalho alongside Abraham Ayala, Ammon Garcia in September, Nasir Davis, Jackson DeGray in July, and Hamza Salim versus Jerome Hatch. All of them absolute classics. And again, Zach, I don't think there's a single clear cut number one answer. It just comes down to the nitty gritty details.
It's Yeah, I mean, it's we're splitting hairs. I mean, you could pick anyone, and I don't think you're wrong. I'm just going to start with that.
I
Pick
agree.
anyone. So I'm going to be nitpicky here, though. I'm going to bring up my teammate, my guy first, Ammon Garcia. The only reason why that wasn't fight of the year for me was Abe Yala just laid on him and held on for dear life for the whole third round. If we had a nomination for the round of the year, the first round of that fight was my favorite round of the whole year.
It wouldn't even be close. Like there
Like,
wouldn't even be nominations.
no,
It's
it
just
was
that
Ammon
one.
Garcia, Aviala, round one. That was my favorite round of the whole year. The only reason why that doesn't make the cut, one, it went 3 rounds, not five, and two, the third round just it was just Abe just kind of laying and praying. To be honest, like just didn't do a lot. So that's why that one's not going to get it, unfortunately. Um, Nitpicking here, the reason why Logan Taylor versus Talon Carvalho didn't get it for me, while it was a fantastic fight, it was Talon and it was Logan. For me, I like the fights that have some back and forth with them. Very similar to David Kim and Reese. Sorry, Reese, I still can't say your last name. Over last weekend, but the thing that I loved about Nasir Davis and Jackson DeGray's fight, and then Jerome Hatch and Salim's fight, was the back and forth throughout the 5 rounds. Nasir comes out, wins the first round. Jackson gets his swagger, comes out and wins 2 and 3. Then Nasir had to dig deep, pull out some grappling that we haven't seen before to secure 4 and 5. You know, that one wins it for me because on the judges' scorecards, it all came down to round 5. In the Jerome fight, he needed a knockout in round 5 for him to win. On 2 of the judges' scorecards, he was down 3-1. One of them, he was 2-2. So winning the 5th round doesn't win him the fight, which is what happened. He won the 5th round, didn't win the fight. Where Nasir and Jackson, it all just came down to that 5th round. That because it was 2-2 going into the 5th, that is why I'm giving it to Nasir Davis and Jackson DeGray.
I think a lot of people might have missed out on that fight because it was in Price, Utah, one of the smaller shows of the year. For people who have not seen that fight, that is legitimately, for my money, the best fight I have ever seen, literally ever. It is just a sensational fight. Nasir Davis, Jackson DeGray, and also I do want to note David Kim, Reese Banderaga, another incredible showing. It could have potentially been nominated. It just didn't end up making it in that top 4, but nonetheless.
It was in my top 4. I won't tell you which one I have out, but it was in my top 4. I
right.
loved it. That was a grappler's like delight.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. All right. Final category of the year, professional fighter of the year. It comes down to 3. Mike Jones, Kent Monfileo, and then Jared Vanderaa, the current Fierce FC heavyweight champion.
Yeah, I mean, in this one again for me, we're weighing and we're splitting hairs, all very worthy. For me, unfortunately, our guy Mike Jones just making the walk under the Fierce banner one time. Unfortunately, I think if he gets that walk in August and gets a win over John Poppy defending his title, I think it would have been his. But he only made the walk for us one time this year. So unfortunately, that is why I am not giving it to Mike Jones, who did get the performance of the year though. This time. Kent going 3-1 under the Fierce banner this year. So we're weighing activity versus the win over him. His one loss was to Mr. Jared Vandera, who went 2-0 in the Fierce Cage this year, defeating Kent and then Eric Iman. It's really hard to not give it to the heavyweight champ that has a win. But to be consistent, didn't even realize it. Kent went 3-1 under the Fierce banner, 3-2 overall with his PFL appearance. I'm gonna have to give the male fighter of the year, Kent Malfaleo, for his activity.
Okay.
That was a curveball.
That was a curveball.
It's really close, but I can't. I feel like the fair thing to do is if I rewarded the most walks than the other ones. 3-1 this year is pretty dang good.
He's had a spectacular year, I believe now back-to-back years in which he is the professional fighter of the year as well for Kent Malfaleo. That all being said, Jared Vandera's had an incredible year. Mike Jones had that BKFC walk as well during the summer.
Yeah.
So many spectacular performances throughout the entire year. What a 2024 it has been, and 2025 looks to hit us right in the mouth with an incredible show on January 24th as well. Zach, thank you so much for another fascinating, incredible year full of fun cards. It has been an absolute honor to continue on and do this. So that all being said, can't wait for a couple of weeks from now. We're right back to it.
See you January 24th.